In July of 2019, in a quiet neighborhood in Hallandale Beach, Florida, a man called 911 to report that his girlfriend was dead. His name was Adam. Her name was Sylvia. They had been together on and off for years, a relationship that neighbors described as loud, volatile, the kind of relationship where the police had been called before. Adam told investigators he did not know what happened. They had spent the evening together. He had gone to sleep, and when he woke, Sylvia was on the floor, gravely injured, with a wound he could not explain. He said he had no idea how it happened, but there was something in that apartment that had been awake the entire night, something that did not sleep, did not blink, and did not forget. On the kitchen counter sat an Amazon Echo, a smart speaker, a small cylinder with a glowing ring of light, waiting, as it always waited, for someone to say its name. And in the months that followed, prosecutors would come to believe that this ordinary household device had recorded the very thing Adam claimed he could not explain. This is the story of one of the first murder cases in America in which police sought the memory of a smart speaker to reconstruct a killing, and of what it means to live in a home full of things that are always listening. Chapter 1: The Beginning. To understand this case, you first have to understand the house it happened in. And by house, I mean the invisible house, the digital one that now exists inside every physical home. In 2019, the smart speaker had become an ordinary object. Tens of millions of American homes had one. People used them to play music, set timers, check the weather, turn off the lights. They sat on counters and nightstands and bookshelves, so common that people stopped noticing them entirely. And that is the crucial detail. People forgot they were there. A smart speaker works by listening constantly for a wake word. It is always processing sound, waiting to hear its name. When it believes it has heard that name, it begins to record and sends that recording to the company's servers, where the request is processed and answered. But the device can be triggered by accident. A word on the television, a phrase in conversation that sounds like the wake word, a sudden loud noise. When that happens, the device may begin recording and capture whatever is happening in the room in that moment. The people who owned these devices rarely thought about this. They were not trying to be recorded, but the potential was always there, sitting on the counter, glowing softly. Adam and Sylvia's relationship, by the accounts that emerged later, was troubled. There had been conflict. There had been prior police contact. Friends and family described a pattern that many people, sadly, will recognize. Two people bound together in a cycle that neither seemed able to leave, and that seemed to escalate over time. On the night in question, they were alone together in the apartment. Except they were not entirely alone. The echo was there, listening, as it always did, for its name. Chapter 2: The Betrayal. When police arrived at the apartment, they found a scene that did not match a simple story. Sylvia had suffered a catastrophic injury, a wound that medical examiners would later find very difficult to reconcile with an accident. The physical evidence in the apartment raised immediate questions. The trajectory of what had happened, the blood evidence, the position of everything in the room. None of it fit neatly with Adam's account that he had simply been asleep and awoken to find her hurt. Adam maintained his story. He did not know what happened. It was an accident, or a mystery, or something that had occurred while he slept. But investigators are trained to notice when a physical scene and a verbal account do not align. And in this apartment, they did not align at all. The medical examiner's findings were, ultimately, the foundation of the case. The nature of Sylvia's injury was determined to be homicide. Inconsistent with an accident, inconsistent with self-infliction, consistent with an act of violence by another person. That finding transformed everything. This was no longer a tragic accident. It was a death that someone had caused. And the only other person in the apartment was Adam. But a medical finding, however strong, tells you the how and not always the exact sequence. Prosecutors building a case want the timeline. They want to know what happened, minute by minute, in that room. And in that room, on the counter, was a device that might have been recording during the very moments in question. So investigators did something that, in 2019, was still novel enough to make national news. They obtained a warrant for the memory of the Amazon Echo. Chapter 3: The Decision. The decision to seek the smart speaker's recordings represented a frontier in criminal investigation. Police wanted any audio the device had captured during the relevant window. If the echo had been triggered, accidentally, by a shout, by a loud noise, by a word that sounded like its wake word, it might have recorded fragments of what happened. Sounds, voices, a struggle, anything that could help reconstruct the truth of that night. Investigators served a warrant on Amazon requesting the recordings associated with the device in the apartment. This raised questions that courts across the country were only beginning to grapple with. What is stored when a smart speaker activates? How long is it kept? Who owns it? Can the government compel a technology company to hand over the ambient sounds of a private home? Amazon, like other technology companies faced with these requests, did not simply hand over everything on demand. These companies have formal legal processes for law enforcement requests. They evaluate warrants. They sometimes challenge the scope. The tension between privacy and criminal investigation is real, and it plays out request by request, case by case. But the mere fact that investigators sought the recordings tells you something profound about the world we now live in. In a home with no human witnesses, police went looking for a mechanical one. They understood something that Adam, apparently, had not fully reckoned with. That the counter in that kitchen held a device with a memory. That the night was not as private as it seemed. That in the modern home, you are rarely truly alone, because the objects around you are, in their limited mechanical way, paying attention. Meanwhile, the physical case continued to build. Chapter 4: The Evidence. The strongest evidence in this case did not, in the end, come from the smart speaker alone. It is important to be honest about that, because the truth of how cases are actually solved matters more than a clean story. The foundation was the forensic and medical evidence. The medical examiner's determination that Sylvia's death was a homicide, that the wound could not have been accidental, was the central pillar. Forensic analysis of the scene, the physical evidence, and the injury itself painted a picture that contradicted Adam's account at every turn. The history of the relationship provided context. The prior conflicts, the pattern that friends and family described, the volatile dynamic that had, tragically, been visible to people around them. And into this, investigators introduced the digital dimension, the smart speaker warrant, the attempt to recover any audio the device might have captured, the recognition that the events in that apartment might have left a trace not just in blood and tissue, but in data. The case drew national attention precisely because of that digital element. Headlines focused on the echo. Legal analysts discuss what it meant for a smart speaker to potentially become a witness in a murder trial. Privacy advocates raised concerns about the precedent. Prosecutors and defense attorneys alike understood they were operating at the edge of established law. What the case demonstrated, regardless of exactly which recording said what, was that the boundary of a crime scene had expanded. It was no longer just the physical room. It was the digital footprint of that room. The devices, the data, the invisible record that modern life generates continuously, automatically, without anyone thinking about it. Adam had given an account of a private night in a private home, but the home was full of quiet machines, and the machines did not corroborate his story. Chapter 5: The Justice. The legal process in cases like this is slow. It grinds forward through hearings and motions and expert testimony. The digital evidence questions, what the echo recorded, what was admissible, what it proved, became part of a larger prosecution built primarily on the forensic reality of how Sylvia died. The core truth the case rested on was this: Sylvia's death was a homicide. She was alone in the apartment with Adam, and his account of an accident was irreconcilable with the physical evidence. The smart speaker became a symbol of something larger than this single case, a marker of the moment when American law enforcement fully entered the era of the connected home. Because this was not an isolated event. In the years around this case, and increasingly since, investigators across the country have turned to smart speakers, doorbell cameras, fitness trackers, smartphones, smart TVs, and connected cars as sources of evidence. Each device is a small, mechanical witness. Each one keeps a record of some slice of what happens around it. And when a human being tells a story that the machines contradict, it is very often the machines that turn out to be telling the truth. Sylvia deserved to be more than a landmark in the history of digital evidence. She was a person. She had a family who loved her, who lost her, who had to sit through the unbearable process of a homicide investigation, and everything that followed. Whatever the technology involved, at the center of this story is a woman who died violently in a place where she should have been safe. That must never be forgotten beneath the fascination with the device. But the lesson of the case is real. And it is worth stating plainly. We have filled our homes with objects that listen. We invited them in ourselves. We put them on our counters and our nightstands because they were convenient, because they played our music and answered our questions and told us the weather. We stopped seeing them. And in doing so, we created something unprecedented in human history. Private spaces that are no longer entirely private. Rooms with memory. Homes that keep records. For most of us, that record will never matter. It will capture nothing but the ordinary sounds of ordinary lives, and it will be overwritten and forgotten. But for those who do something in the dark and expect the dark to keep their secret, the modern home has a surprise waiting. The glowing circle on the counter was listening. It was always listening, and it does not lie about what it hears. Adam thought the only witness to that night was himself. He was wrong. There was a witness on the kitchen counter, and it had been awake the entire time. Thank you for being here for this story. New story every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If this made you look a little differently at the devices in your own home, share it. Someone you know should hear it. We will see you in the next one. Let us go deeper, because this case sits at the center of a transformation that touches every single person listening right now. First, understand how much these devices actually capture, because most people are wrong about it. A smart speaker is not recording continuously in the sense of saving everything. That is the common fear, and it is not quite accurate. What it does is listen locally, constantly, for its wake word, Alexa, or whatever name the owner chose. It holds a few seconds of audio in a temporary buffer, checking that rolling audio against the wake word. When it thinks it hears the word, it begins recording in earnest and sends that clip to the cloud. The critical vulnerability, for someone with something to hide, is the false trigger. These devices misfire. A word on television. A phrase in an argument. A name that sounds like the wake word. A sudden loud sound. Any of these can convince the device it has been summoned. And when that happens, it records. And it uploads whatever is happening in the room at that moment. Think about what that means in the context of a violent crime. Violence is loud. Violence involves raised voices, shouts, screams, crashes, impacts. Precisely the kind of sudden acoustic chaos that can trip a smart speaker into recording. A person committing a violent act in a room with a smart speaker is, without knowing it, performing in front of a microphone that may decide, on its own, at the worst possible moment, to start saving what it hears. That is why investigators wanted the echo's data. Not because they knew it had recorded something, because they knew it might have. And in modern investigation, might have is enough to justify looking. Second, let us talk about the legal frontier this case occupied, because it matters far beyond Adam and Sylvia. When police serve a warrant on a technology company for the contents of a home device, they enter contested territory. On one side is the legitimate need to investigate a homicide, the most serious crime there is. On the other is a principle old as any in free societies, the sanctity of the private home, the idea that within your own walls, you have a reasonable expectation of privacy. But what is a reasonable expectation of privacy in a home you have voluntarily filled with internet-connected microphones? Courts have wrestled with this. The answers are still evolving. Different cases have gone different ways. Technology companies have sometimes provided data, sometimes resisted, sometimes required the government to meet a high legal bar first. What is clear is that the framework built for an older world, A world of letters in locked drawers and conversations that vanished into air the moment they were spoken, does not map cleanly onto a world where your casual words may be transcribed and stored on a server in another state. The Alexa case was one of the early moments when the American public grasped this. When people read the headlines, many of them looked over at the device on their own counter with a new and slightly uneasy awareness. That thing is listening. And if something terrible ever happened in this room, the police might ask it what it heard. Third, and this is the part one want you to sit with, consider how completely the meaning of a witness has changed. For all of human history, a witness was a person. Someone who saw, who heard, who could be asked to tell what they knew. Witnesses could be intimidated. Witnesses could lie. Witnesses could forget, or misremember, or be persuaded to change their story. The entire drama of criminal justice, for thousands of years, revolved around the fragile, corruptible, human witness. The machine witness is something entirely new. It cannot be intimidated. You cannot threaten a smart speaker into silence. It cannot be bribed. It has no loyalty to buy. It does not forget. Its memory is a data file, precise and unchanging. It does not misremember under the pressure of cross-examination. It was not emotionally involved. It has no motive. It simply recorded what it recorded, and it will report exactly that, the same way, every time it is asked. For an innocent person, this is a form of protection unlike anything that has ever existed. The machine witness can confirm your alibi with a precision no human friend ever could. It can prove you were where you said you were, doing what you said you were doing. For a guilty person, it is a catastrophe. Because the one thing a guilty person has always relied on, the absence of witnesses, the privacy of the dark, the deniability of a story no one can contradict, has been quietly revoked by the objects they invited into their own home. Adam told a story about a private night, but privacy, in the way he was counting on it, no longer fully exists. The counter was occupied. The device was awake. And that is the world we all live in now. Not just criminals, all of us. A world where the boundary between private and recorded has blurred beyond recognition. Where the rooms we live in have memory. Where the machines we stop noticing are, in their patient mechanical way, always paying attention. Most of us will never have a reason to fear that. But it is worth knowing. It is worth remembering the next time you speak freely in a room with a glowing circle on the counter, that the circle is listening. It is always listening. And someday, for someone, what it heard will be the difference between a story that holds and a story that shatters. There is one more dimension to this story, and it may be the most important of all, because it is about you, not about Adam. When people hear a case like this, they think about criminals getting caught. That is satisfying. But the deeper story is what these devices mean for ordinary, innocent people, and it cuts both ways. Consider the protective power first. Imagine you are falsely accused of something. It happens more often than people like to believe. A sex, a vindictive coworker, a misidentification. Historically, defending yourself against a false accusation meant relying on human memory. Your word against theirs, alibis from friends who might be doubted, timelines you could not prove. Now imagine that the devices in your life can testify for you. Your phone's location data shows you were across town. Your smart speaker recorded you at home, calmly, at the moment you were supposedly committing a crime miles away. Your car's data confirms your route. Your doorbell camera timestamps your comings and goings. For the innocent, this web of silent witnesses is a shield. It has already freed people who would once have been convicted on the strength of a confident, but mistaken human account. The same technology that convicts the guilty exonerates the innocent, because it serves neither. It serves only the record. But now consider the unease, because it is legitimate. Every one of these protective devices is also a surveillance device. The smart speaker that could prove your innocence is the same speaker that is listening to your private life every day. The phone that confirms your alibi is tracking your every movement. The convenience and the exposure are the same thing, wearing two faces. We made a trade, as a society, and most of us made it without thinking. We traded privacy for convenience. We put microphones in our bedrooms because it was nice to change the music without getting up. We accepted location tracking because maps are useful. We installed cameras at our doors because packages get stolen. Each individual trade made sense. The sum of them is a world none of us explicitly chose. A world of total, ambient, automatic memory. The Alexa case is a single dark data point in that enormous shift. One night, one apartment, one device, one story that did not survive contact with the machine that had been listening. But it stands for the whole transformation. It is the moment made visible. So here is what I want you to take from Sylvia's story. Beyond the tragedy of it, beyond the fascination with the technology, be aware of the witnesses in your own home. Not fearful. Aware. Know what is listening. Know what is recording. Know what remembers. Make your peace with the trade you have made, or change it. Turn devices off, delete recordings, reclaim some of the silence if that matters to you, and understand the deeper truth the case reveals. That we have entered an age where the truth is harder to bury than it has ever been in human history, where a lie told in a private room may be contradicted by the room itself, where the darkness that criminals have always relied upon has been quietly, permanently illuminated by 10,000 small glowing lights on 10,000 kitchen counters. For those who would do harm and count on secrecy, that is a reckoning. For the rest of us, it is something to understand and to live with thoughtfully. Sylvia's death was a tragedy that no technology could undo. But the device that was listening that night became part of how the truth of what happened to her was pursued. She was not alone in that apartment after all. Something was awake, and it did not forget. Thank you for being here for this story. Please keep the people at the center of these cases in your thoughts. They were real, and they mattered, long before they became part of legal history. New story every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will see you in the next one. Before we close, I want to leave you with a single practical thought, because knowledge without action is just anxiety. If you have smart devices in your home, and almost everyone does now, take 20 minutes this week and learn what they actually keep. Every major smart speaker lets you review your recording history. You can listen to what it has saved. You can delete it. You can set recordings to auto-delete after a period of time. You can mute the microphone with a physical button when you want a truly private conversation. Most people have never opened these settings once. I am not telling you to throw your devices away. They are genuinely useful. And the same memory that unsettles you is the memory that might one day protect you. I am telling you to be a conscious participant in the trade you are making, rather than an unconscious one. Know what listens. Know what remembers. Decide, deliberately, how much of your private life you are comfortable leaving on a server somewhere. That is the only real lesson that serves the living, rather than merely fascinating us about the dead. Sylvia cannot benefit from any of this. Her story is finished, and it ended in violence, and no amount of reflection changes that. The most we can do is let her case teach the rest of us something true. The homes we live in are no longer silent. Live accordingly. Thank you for listening to all of it.